Larry tried to kill me.
Yeah. I was so thoroughly disgusted.
I mean, think about it. Why does it make you special to do what you do?
Packers jumping around. They rush 4. Plenty of time for John. Now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. LA can run. Inside the 10. Head first. He dives off the 5-yard line. My goodness.
Rushing forward, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
There's also Brian Clady and Bob Miller. Third and long 3. Going deep. Oh, and he's got Thomas. Goodbye. Touchdown.
Here we go. First snap of the overtime. The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Got him at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Stiff arm got him 3 to the 30. To the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on the New England. They win it on the first play of overtime.
And welcome to the show. My name is Mundungus Creevy, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host Glenn, Cam, and back from the honeymoon Boggins. And you
Boggins.
Boggins. And you are currently tuned into the 5280 podcast on the MHRT Network. We are a fan-led Broncos-based podcast, filling you in on all things Denver Broncos. We will be joined by our guest here shortly, but in the meantime, we're going to talk some Broncos stuff. How's everybody doing, first of all?
I'm good. As many of you know, I got married. I was about to hold up my ring, but I'm already doing the typical married thing, which is forgetting to wear your ring.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Never
Got it. I just don't, it's just like you don't know when you're supposed to take it off. And then I've been told never. And I'm like,
washing your hands and showering. That's it.
Yeah, I do that, and I forgot it in the shower. So there it is, which is right behind me, obviously, right?
Yeah, right.
Out of the club.
Yeah. But no, it was insane. Got a tan. Doesn't really look like it based on my lighting, but I did. So take that. Had a great time, and I'm excited to be back and talk some Broncos. Been trying to keep tabs a bit while I was gone, but it was hard, swimming, jumping off a sailboat in the Aegean Sea. It's just hard to check your phone sometimes.
Yeah.
Just put that finger up there.
Oh, both fingers, bro.
We're excited to have you back. I don't know if you heard this, but the Broncos have a new owner, Boggins.
What?
I know. Seriously.
Yeah, it is actually official now. Rob Walton is now the owner of the Denver Broncos. Obviously,
I thought it was Peyton Manning. That's weird.
Yeah, no. $4.65 billion, and he owed it all to the wonderful work of Roger Goodell, which was fantastic.
I just like Roger in the background, kind of just like, yeah.
He's my boss.
That was very amusing. Roger Goodell.
Yes, sir. Just never pronounce. I'm just going to call you Steve from now on. Okay. Sounds good, sir. Thank you.
But no, I mean, it is, and it's, what the thing I put on the thumbnail is, this basically is the end of the Bolin era in Denver football. I mean, the Bolins no longer own in any way the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a bittersweet day, right? And by the way, if you guys hear anything, ruckus in the background, I'm over in Breckenridge. So I mean, it's a little bit crowded with, of course, people.
He just got done burying a body. If you see anything in the background, just ignore it. It's okay.
I literally thought you were at the zoo this whole time. That's what it looks like.
I do look like
right
an
next
animal.
to the crocodile pit, just right behind you.
But no, I would say it's bittersweet though. I mean, it's always a sad day when especially with the end of an era is when it has to deal with Pat Bowlen, but it's an exciting time because you get someone fresh in there, you get some fresh ideas, and from what I was able to kind of catch a little bit of the presser, it certainly seemed like the Waltons were a little bit impressed with, say, that regime, and the regime that the Broncos had as far as the general manager and the quarterback situation, which I thought was also interesting because they did mention that had the quarterback been settled, that might have weighed a little bit into their decision, and so I think that was a little bit of an interesting comment. That they kind of threw out there. So again, kudos to George Payton for making that appealing for a guy like a $70 billion owner in Rob Walton.
Sorry, they only have him listed at $59 billion. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
calm it down.
And at the same time, I feel like you can't blame the guy for like mentioning it, because I mean, like, it's not like someone wants to buy the Lions. You know what I mean? It's like someone's like, ooh, the Houston Texans. Here I go.
But did you see that Jamal Williams video though?
Yeah, I mean, you're the 17th most richest man in the world. You're like, oh, yes, the Houston Texans.
So I thought it was wasn't an interesting tidbit that Walton's son-in-law Greg had actually spoken with the trust 10 years ago about possibly buying the team. So this has been a long time coming. Greg and Carrie live in Colorado, so it's not like they're outsiders. So I'm excited. I'm excited for no squabbling. I'm excited for an all-star team ownership group. I'm excited for the group having a ton of money that they can not have to worry about scrambling around like someone like the Bengals do to put money in escrow for Russell Wilson's next contract. So it's going to be fun to see them in Denver tomorrow. And if someone could tell Ed Werder that George Payton is not a first-year GM, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I like I like that they are putting diversity on the forefront as well. I think that was a big part of it. That was really cool that they mentioned, and that the fact that Greg Penner is kind of there, and his Carrie. That's
Carrie.
right. Carrie Penner are both there to kind of essentially, I feel like they're probably going to be the primary, like the backbone behind the ownership. I that's also what I kind of heard before this whole thing went down, is that Greg Penner, and then because I had mentioned Rob Walton's son as a possible like heir to the throne, but now that Greg Penner is obviously a whole part of this thing, I feel like they're kind of going to be the inherent owners when Rob Walton decides to kind of retire and step down. And I think that was going to be one of the main questions, him being 78 years old or whatever. So yeah, it's nice to have a future, and a decently diverse future at that.
Well, are the Penners the ones that are going to run the team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Penners run it, and then it was going to be Walton would be in on like the real estate decisions or big business stuff and things like that, right?
He's the money man.
Money man. He doesn't need to go Goodell's name. He's fine. He can do whatever he wants.
He's the sugar daddy.
So Boggins,
Broncos sugar daddy.
It was cool when they were
His
asked
Twitter
directly what attracted them to the business partners, and they said wanted people with tremendous capacity and diversity, and I think they got both. So that's it's exciting to see this group that's been compiled. I can't wait.
And even to that point with the diversity, I like the fact that not only with within the ethnicity and stuff with the diversity there, but like it's also a diverse like background that they have, and so I mean you're talking about a political person in Condoleezza Rice, and to even someone within like obviously we all know with Star Wars, but Starbucks and JP Morgan, and I think that and then of course you go to Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time Formula One champion. So the diversity is just it is definitely a very wide net, should I say, of diverse and tremendous characters.
Yeah. How's it going to feel, Cam, to be live in a city where that is completely owned by the Waltons and the Cronkies? I just feel like it's just going to be all.
And then like a little slice,
like a mafia.
Well, considering Cam's employed by the Cronkies, I'm going to go with.
Yeah. Let's
He's cool.
It's all recorded.
No, I mean, how can you not be happy about it, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure.
But I mean, and even then, I mean, it's just like the as we all know, even with the Waltons, the Cronkies are, attached to it in that sense. I mean, with it being, the Waltons, and married by, or into it by marriage, and so I think that it's going to be a fun experience. I think for the exposure of maybe where the Broncos certainly can see themselves in many years to come, and not just them, but obviously the other sports teams, and hopefully the Montforts can kind of get the messaging, get out, and the Waltons can buy the Rockies at some point.
Yeah. You live another day. Congratulations. Good answer.
One more day. I'm gonna sing a song for Les Mis.
No, we didn't get to get Boggins' take on this last week when we were talking about Tim Patrick, but there is kind of a little twist in that potentially.
Bad.
There has been rumors of potentially Jalen Reagor being traded to the Broncos to help fill in for wide receiver. Did Sutton hurt his shoulder today, right?
He has a shoulder thing. We don't know like the extent of it. And Jalen Reagor doesn't fix anything that we need. Like I know that they're trying to run Jerry Jeudy over there, which I don't necessarily love because I love him in the slot because he's a monster there. But so is KJ. So I get having a rotation there. I know that they have been trying like Hinton over there. I know that Johnson is also a bigger receiver. Has an opportunity to make the roster out there. Obviously, Washington has been putting his name in the hat there. Not that side, sorry, more in the slot, but like in the top 5 of the receiver core. I think we have a lot of opportunity there. We don't necessarily have like a big threat. I think that they're going to potentially run a decent amount of 12 personnel where you're going to have both tight ends out there, and then you'll have your big bodies to get the ball to. I think they're going to work around it. From what has been going around is that this offense is pretty dang complicated, and there's a lot of different schemes. So we will really see how they get to utilize all the players that they have. I definitely don't see a Jalen Reagor being an option, like another slot receiver. Essentially, I mean he's a burner, but he doesn't have the size that you would like. I don't know. I personally
who's that undrafted rookie receiver that's been making waves?
Johnson,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's recruited by Azani, Mike. So I mean, there's some history there, and some familiarity. So that's it's great to see that he's doing well. And hey, Boggins, I wanted to ask you, like, who are your top 6 receivers as it stands right now?
Or right now?
Yeah, all time.
Probably
I would go Sutton, Jeudy. Oh, I gotta hold my fingers up so I can know how to count.
He's gotta count.
Sutton, Jeudy, Hamler, Hinton, Montrell, and I probably have to go Johnson because I like his contested catch ability. Yeah.
So you've got Hinton above Montrell.
I think he has more experience in the system. I'm not saying he's above Montrell. I'm just giving you my top 6 that I think are going to make the roster. I think Montrell is going to be mainly a return specialist. However, I think he can be utilized in the actual offense itself. I think we have a lot of between him, Judy, and KJ. It's going to be very interesting how they kind of throw them all over the place, just with their speed and quickness.
What do you think of Seth Williams?
Saving face.
I think Seth Williams is an option. From what I've heard, he's come along a little slower than. I mean, he's not necessarily making a ton of waves right now, and him being in his second year, I feel like that's something that needs to happen now. But I've been hearing a lot more about like Johnson and Caden and stuff like that.
Well,
yeah,
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I actually hadn't heard the stuff with Jalen Reagor. I had to be honest with you, going or being rumored as a Broncos target. And I'm along with Boggins. I mean, I when you look at the Broncos wide receiver room, I think that you can start, feeling your oats and ask yourself, about bringing some potential prospects in. But I think that you want to certainly see what you have from within. And the best opportunity that you can have that is in training camp and seeing what you have in guys like Brandon Johnson and Seth Williams and Kendall Hinton and whenever Tyreek Cleveland comes back. So I truly do believe that, the Broncos will keep 6 wide receivers. So I'm along with Boggins on that regard. And I wonder if Seth Williams, if it ever, because I think the one thing that will always separate a player, and this goes for Brandon Johnson, this goes for, especially the wide receiver that we're getting ready to talk about now. But I mean, like Kendall Hinton, all those guys, like the things that are always going to separate you are things like those joint practices that we're going to be having on, Thursday. And then the preseason action, like the live game action, is truly what's going to be able to separate you, I think, as far as making that 53-man roster, or maybe even making the practice squad. So that usually what separates you. But obviously we all know, practice. We talking about practice.
Yeah, I do think some people are kind of freaking out a little too early on the receiving core. Also, don't get me wrong, Tim Patrick being down for the year is huge. However, I do like our depth. I think that a few of them are kind of the same build, and so you kind of wonder how they're going to play that out. But I enjoy our overall receiving core, and I think depending on what happens to Cortland Sutton, depending on how serious this is, but based off of Hackett saying a shoulder thing, I don't think it's necessarily going to be that serious. Hopefully. But I guess we'll find out. Then it's panic time. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just tweeting or DMing the guest we're gonna have on. I found out that I made a mistake and told him the wrong time. That's why he's not here. My bad. We'll figure it out. There is one big news story that has happened in the NFL today, and that is Roquan Smith has requested a trade from the Bears. And there are a lot of Broncos fans that are freaking out wanting to go after Roquan Smith. Is that even an option?
Let's look at Cam over here with the cold take. Yeah, there are a lot of people that have been posted. Actually, it's kind of created a fun little Twitter beef for the day, because I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, duh, and then there's a lot of people that are like, nah. So I am in the nah faction. That's for sure. You're muted, my dude.
I was just it's probably a good thing. I was gonna say it's probably a good thing, but I was just gonna say or you could just go to with Boggins and the reply that he had to my tweet and just keep it truly to the one word answer and just say nope.
Yeah, that one.
You wouldn't even make the call just to see what.
I kick the tires. I don't, but realistically, he wants out of there because he wants money, and we are already tied up with deciding what we're going to do with Russ, because we still have to pay Russ eventually. We have no draft capital that we really want to play with right now, and for a very devalued position. I don't see that being a thing. It would have to be a very good deal, which I don't think is going to happen. I mean, a lot of people are ragging on our linebacker core, but it's not terrible. Josie Jewell's solid. Jonas Griffith has been blowing it up apparently. I mean, there wouldn't have moved Baron Browning to edge, like for sure,
Right.
if they weren't confident in what we had there. And we only pulled out Alex Singleton. I'm pretty confident in what we currently have, especially when we're going to be running a lot of 6DB sets. So I just don't see it being a thing.
And I mean, I'm under the vein that it's just like, I mean, the moment that a player like a Roquan Smith is available, you call. I mean, you call, because we all know that, I mean, he's definitely the type of player that will bring out a lot of that room. And I mean, as much as I love Josie Jewell, I mean, and the potential starting duo that those two, he and Jonas Griffith could, you know, a Roquan Smith, and something liking about. I think still a pretty decent duo. It doesn't matter, who it's going to be, whether it's going to be, he and Josie or he and Jonas. But I mean, you still kick the tires. Doesn't necessarily mean that you acquire him. It just simply means that that you're kicking the tires and you're at least showing interest. And just because you're showing interest too doesn't necessarily mean that you are devaluing the certain players that you have in Josie Jewell or or Jonas Griffith. And so I think that it's just a matter of how do you want to make that team better. And certainly the draft capital is a little bit of a part of that. And I think with Roquan too, the other thing maybe is that with Russ here, is the possibility that he wants to maybe take less, it's for a contract extension to play with the Denver Broncos, for the foreseeable future. So there's a lot of factors to weigh in, but I am in no way, sliding the current linebacker room that we have, because I love Jonas Griffith. I think that he's going to be an absolute stud when he gets that opportunity. And frankly, he might be even taking that opportunity and running with it right now in camp.
Yeah.
Our favorite hot take guy said that he would trade Javonte Williams for Roquan.
I was gonna say, the Broncos only have 5 draft picks next season. So do we even have the capital to even make that trade? I don't think we do.
I mean, sure, but why?
Yeah,
I get it. I also think
and Josie Jewell and Jonas Griffith, I love them. I'm perfectly fine with them. I just don't think we have the capital, nor should we have the capital to want to trade for it.
Yeah, no, and it's such a devalued position. I just don't see it at all. And any good GM is going to make a call. Any little hint of maybe this would be an improvement or good depth, they're going to make a call. They just want to get more information, because a good GM just wants information to be able to make a call on something. And I wouldn't be surprised if he hadn't already, but I just don't see it being a future for the Broncos.
So obviously we've seen a lot coming out of training camp that the defense has still basically been the top portion of the team in training camp. We still have a very strong defense. And I heard from Tim Jenkins, he put out a tweet that said that Russell Wilson still has the zip on the ball. He still has the escapability. He still has all the skills that you were looking for when you originally got Russell Wilson. The defense is just playing that well that the defenses look better than the offense in training camp.
Yeah, I mean, but you also got to consider that Russ is still going. I mean, 1, learning a new playbook, 2, getting the chemistry down with the receivers, 3, getting injuries to the receivers, so he's having to switch out all the time. There's still so many factors on the offensive side that need to gel first. Yeah. But on the defensive side, you have a majority of all the same players, a very, very similar scheme with just different terminology. So they kind of already have a leg up in the competition. And from what I've been hearing as of late, the offense has kind of started to take over again. So it's good. That's what you want to see. Yeah. You want to see a real camp battle, and especially when your offense is so new. You have a new quarterback, new coach, new OC, new everything. You're going to see a bit of growing pains, but at the same time, that growth is what we've been yearning to see, and that's what's happening. It is, for one word, not underwhelming. I can tell you that. It is definitely something that is just nice to see and what you would expect from a former Super Bowl champion.
Yeah. Well, Tim also brought up Nathaniel Hackett was saying that he's actually been pleasantly surprised and more surprised with Nathaniel Hackett, or more impressed, because you can see that the offense is making the defense show what they're going to do, which is something we didn't see last year. So the fact that we're getting the Russell Wilson we thought we were getting, and Tim Jenkins is more impressed with Nathaniel Hackett than he initially was, all good things for me. Like, I'm excited.
You know how I kind of predict that Hackett is going to be a really good coach is that he just shows how much he loves the game. He just absolutely loves the game of football, and you can see that just coming from him and his dad before him, and getting to kind of coach with his dad. Like, he absolutely loves it. So, like, any little tidbit he can use to overtake the defense, he'll use it. And he just likes looking at those little intricacies just to make sure I can get around here. If this guy pulls this guy, he loves that stuff. And that's what makes you very enthusiastic for his tenure as a head coach, is that he will continue to do that. And he's having fun right now. And I feel like that's when the defense should be scared.
I love when he's lined up as a running back and he's taking like you could just tell how excited he is. But the competition is something that's really stood out for me, is that the offense and the defense and competing against one another, and the players are really eating it up. And one of the things Evero said was that competing with Hackett has been something they've been doing for 20 something years since college. They would be competing on all these different levels. So they're having a good time with the offense versus defense as well.
Well, and I think that one of the other things that will be so successful for Hackett is his player relatability, and his love of football is clearly showing in all of these, videos, but the ability that he has to relate to those players and bring that energy on a daily basis is something we all know is something that has been missing, for this Broncos team for the past handful of years. And so having that kind of energy and having it be in a building, and then having a star quarterback on top of it, and then even to further that point, I think when you see the marriage, maybe start to see it a little bit unfold between Russell and Hackett a little bit in practice, those are the kinds of things that do go a long way. And at least with, practices and we all know games, because there was that one point in time where I believe it was Hackett mentioned that was actually, I think it was the play that they scored on. And I don't know if it was to Greg Dulcich, but, Hackett had mentioned that Russell Wilson was the person who called that play. And those are the kinds of things that you want to kind of hear, especially in training camp, but you also want to be able to hear those kinds of things down the line, and then regular season games, and then obviously those meaningful live action games. So seeing it happen now is certainly a cipher Suarez. Doesn't necessarily mean it's complete, doesn't necessarily mean it's finite, but it certainly means that there's a really good step in the right direction between Hackett and Russell's relationship.
Well, I was able to somewhat fix my mistake, and he is now here. So he is the man behind the curtain of Old Takes Exposed, which has almost 600,000 followers on Twitter. He now has a book that was released today called Freezing Cold Takes, NFL, Football Media's Most Inaccurate Predictions and the Fascinating Stories Behind Them. Ladies and gentlemen, Fred Segal.
Woo!
Yeah. Okay. First things first. My bad. That was my bad.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Not a problem. I wasn't really doing anything. I was just watching TV.
I was going back like, oh, whoops.
See, Mike, Fred is seriously covering for you, because today his book, this is release day. So the fact that he says he wasn't doing anything is not.
Oh yeah. No. I have to clear my kids out. That's what
there you go. So your Twitter account started in 2010. It was more like a trolling channel back then, right? And then it kind of moved in 2015 to the cold takes.
Right. I essentially started Freezing Cold Takes in 2015. I was doing a lot of different things with it. I don't even remember what I did a lot of different things with that account beforehand. I think I may have made a fake account of one of my friends, maybe other stuff like that. Nothing big, but then I used that same account to make the Freezing Cold Take. So I really started in November 2015.
Fred, was there one particular tweet that blew up Freezing Cold Takes? And if so, what was it?
It wasn't a tweet. It was an article about Freezing Cold Takes feed written by SportsIllustrated.com 3 months into when I started the feed. And that made it really big because the author, it wasn't just the article. He tweeted about it like 5 times. I don't think back then you could retweet your own tweet. Yeah. There were no quote tweets. So you had to repost your article each time. So he tweeted about it like 5 times and added my handle to it. And then at that time, and it was someone who like everybody in media followed. So they all followed me after that.
Do you remember how he found
followers? Maybe I was like maybe at 2,500 followers. And then it went to like 25,000 after that.
How did he find you? Do you know?
Hello?
I was saying, how did he find you to write that article? That's pretty.
I don't know. Well,
so cool.
There were a bunch of what happened. The first thing that ever happened was, well, first a bunch of local feeds picked it up, like local radio. So someone from maybe Sacramento would say, "Oh, there's a great feed here," and that's when I had like 100 followers, and then it went up to like 400 followers because of that. Right. So eventually, like I had 1,000 or something, and then I saw one. I was driving home from work, which was like an hour, and I came home and I had like 200 new followers, and that's crazy. I wondered. I had to ask the feed. I had to ask people like, "Why do I have so many new followers? What happened?" And it was someone from New York, Michael K, the Michael K Show from New York. Mm-hmm. He just talked about it randomly. I had never spoken with him or interacted with him. So at that time, it went up to like 1,500. Maybe that's where he saw the feed. That could have been where he saw it, or something like that. But once he saw it and wrote about it, that was it.
Do you feel like you get like a general positive reaction from the media side of things, or do you feel like it's kind of the opposite, or maybe like in front of camera they're like, oh, jokey about it, and then behind the scenes they're like,
I don't think they like it.
Yeah.
Not because some people do, some of them do, but not because of less because of the cold takes and more because of they get really annoyed whenever they say anything interesting or predictive or even remotely predictive at that time, right? As soon as they post it, I'll get tagged 50 times under it. Yeah. And that really annoys me.
So Fred, I got to ask you, obviously with it being old takes exposed, do you have a favorite one that, someone tagged you in? Do you have a favorite one that, maybe it sort of ranks up there as far as maybe an old take that you just absolutely laughed?
Well, one of the first ones I found was, Colin Cowherd, Dak Prescott. It was from 2014. Dak Prescott will be a backup in the NFL. Period. At tight end. Period. It was during one of his college games. He was struggling. He wasn't playing well, and he wrote. Colin Cowherd tweeted that.
Yikes!
Go ahead.
Well, to say, how do you go about finding the takes that you're going to use? Because there's so much social media.
Well, I find it because, at first, when I first started, I was working as an attorney at the time. I'd been an attorney for 8 years. There's a platform called Westlaw and LexisNexis, and it's like what attorneys use to follow to research their case law and find case law going back to whatever date to prove their case. And I was really good at it with the search terms, and it was really kind of similar with Twitter, the way you used to use the search terms. So I would able to, all you have to do is find a relevant date of something, and then look up the search terms of the name of the player or the coach. Like if a coach got fired, you go and look up an article of that coach, like look on Google, coach hired, and you find out the date they were hired, and then you just look the name of the coach of that day, of all the tweets from that day, and there'll be a bunch of tweets of people who say, great hire, wonderful hire. And you can filter it where it could be, if it's too big of a topic, you could filter it to where it's just like only the people, the blue checks.
Yeah.
So then it even kind of condenses it to people want to see exposed.
So you must be loving like Combine Day and Draft Day. Like those got to be your days.
During the draft it's not the same, but the draft where the draft is where a lot of takes are made that are used in the future.
Yeah.
It's not really that posting stuff.
Right.
Because like you don't really know if the player is going to be good or not. I mean, the only thing you could post is this player is not going to be picked in the first round, and he is. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't look up Cameron's Paxton Lynch tweet.
Paxton Lynch was a good one. He was a good one. Paxton Lynch, there was a good Sports Illustrated cover with Paxton Lynch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your most memorable encounter with a cold take subject, both positive and negative?
Well, the positive ones is when they come out and they follow me, or they mention when somebody mentions the feed, like they know the feed, even if they don't even know anything about me. Like like there was one time there was a Texas Tech game. I don't know. Texas Tech was up by like a lot of points, and they lost to Texas. But I think Patrick Mahomes had a tweet where he was just crowning Texas Tech a team or two, and then they lost, and then he tagged himself. He tagged me too. I didn't know he knew about the
No way.
I mean, yeah. I don't even think he follows it, but he knew about it. So, guys like that, they don't know who I am, but they know of the feed.
Yeah.
So, like stuff like that's cool for me. Like this is really, I'm 41, and this is like a big deal for me. But when people from like sitcoms that I used to watch back in the day are following me or tagging me, from like the old sitcoms that I used to watch, like Wings or
Wings. That's such a good show.
It's a great show. I'm one of the biggest Wings guy there is. I mean, I've seen it 5 times. But stuff like that, like shows like that. Shows I used to watch on reruns when there was no streaming services, and you have to watch, and there was no TiVo or DVR, and you watch the reruns as it came on TBS or USA Network. Like those type of shows, like and when those type of people come on, or a movie that I liked from a long time ago, that's the best for me. But I don't really get excited about that, except to myself. Or like myself.
Okay, I kind of got like a scenario question for you. Okay, you're a GM, and your scouts are Skip Bayless, Nick Wright, and Colin Coward.
Jeez.
Each of them come to you with a prospect that they are pounding the table for, same position. Rank them who you're going to listen to the most.
Cowherd maybe 1, I guess. Wright 2, and Bayless 3. I'm just talking about the sincerity of the post, the takes.
So Cowherd is the least believable or most believable?
I'd say he's the most believable.
Oh, okay.
He does well. I think that his opinions are sincere, or the most sincere out of the people. Although he does present things in a way that is very hyperbolic, or he does these metaphors or stuff like that, where he does it in a way that makes it sound more entertaining and interesting. I think all those guys are in the balancing act of sincerity and entertainment, and entertainment wins. So they're not really concerned about that kind of stuff. They're not concerned about really what they're saying. let alone if they say it well, or say something that people are going to latch on to, whether they like it or they don't.
Got it.
So how did you decide to go from making the tweets to making a book about the tweets or about the takes?
Well, I wanted to do something in longer form, like social media. There's only room for a quote or a tweet, and the book, and like 280 characters, the book lends me the ability to tell the stories, provide context into why some of the journalists had the opinion. A lot of these journalists get really mad because there's no context. So, I mean, the book is really good, has a lot of chapters, finding periods or moments in a team or a player's history where like a specific underlying sentiment was popular. Like when Bill Belichick was hired in 2000 by the Patriots, there was a whole sentiment about he was a bad hire. And I wrote a whole chapter about that and all the different articles and quotes about that in really kind of a narrative form. There's also stuff in the art. There's one chapter where it just lists draft takes, old draft takes, from like dating back at least like 40 years to present. So just when commentators said something, when the guy was drafted or just prior to. Stuff like about Emmitt Smith and Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, stuff like that.
So, Fred, I was excited to get the book because I wasn't sure exactly what was going to be what it was going to be about. I didn't know if it was just going to be a whole list of some of your favorite things or whatever. And like you were just mentioning, it gave you an opportunity to tell the stories. And that was the thing as I was spending a little bit of time before flipping through it. And one of the things that really struck me is that you actually have a lot of takes that were pre-internet, pre-Twitter, pre-social media, things like that you then were researching. How did you come up with those takes? How did you whittle them down? Because there had to have been so many from which to choose. And what was the process in going about the research on that?
Well, I have you have to subscribe to these services like newspaper.com and Newsbank. They have just millions and millions of old papers and articles. Sometimes you have to just get a membership to that specific paper. Like I had so much stuff on Dallas Cowboys because I subscribed to the archive of the Dallas Morning News. Stuff like that, you have to go there and you have to look up the search terms, or you just have to go through the dates, like when things were going on, and look up there. It's really kind of a long process. I didn't whittle them down till the end. I wrote a lot more than this. I had a word requirement. I had to keep cutting things. But that was one of the hardest parts, to make it really kind of like readable with only relevant stuff, or things that you have to take off stuff that kind of just put it in a different track. But I think that it was a lot like that. You could watch clips. You watch clips of old games. Some of the chapters I have quotes from the announcers during the game, and YouTube has a lot of these old games. And you just watch the whole game, and you listen to what they say, and you can get a lot of good things like about what they're thinking, or good quotes during the game.
It's incredible. The amount of work you put into this is phenomenal. So
yeah, it took a long time. I mean, I was supposed to have this done. This was supposed to be August of last year, and I didn't even come close to finishing on time. So they had to change it to the next year.
So with the book being freezing NFL taker, for focusing solely on the NFL, I should say, do you see it sort of molding into bringing that, to say like the NBA or, Major League Baseball or something to the lines of that, as far as some of your the old takes and stuff like that, and kind of doing the same thing, but just, focusing, say, on the other major sports like baseball and the NBA?
Yeah. Well, that's the plan. And when I first pitched this book, or was planning to pitch the book to book agents and publishers, it was going to be all sports. But then I thought, maybe if it works out with one sport, I could do another sport. And NFL was the most popular one, and that's really where I had the most stuff. But I could probably do an NBA one. I could easily have enough material for an NBA one, and college football, Major League Baseball. I could do. I mean, I had a max word requirement on this. There's just so many out here in this book,
right,
that I could make a volume 2 easily. So that's something I could do too. So I mean, if there's a market for it, if it sells pretty good, then maybe that's the case. I mean, that's the original plan. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Do you do you dare have any hot takes in your past that haven't necessarily aged well?
Yeah, I have a lot, but mostly, and they have a lot to do with college football. That's where I really come up with hot takes the most. NFL for me. I'm a Dolphins fan. I grew up in Miami, and we've one of the worst franchises in the league for like 20 years. So I don't really get into it that much in terms of like passionately trying to predict things. But in college football, I mean, the one that recently I did was, I'm from Miami, so I know I really follow University of Miami a lot. I went to University of Florida, so that's who I root for. But I was adamant that Mario Cristobal would never come to back to Miami, even though he's from here and went to school here, because I didn't think Miami had whatever they were the notoriously cheap program who would never spend the money to get any of the things that Cristobal would want and spend money to get Cristobal, but that's what they did. It's the first time in like ever that they've spent this much money, University of Miami. Yeah. So I was completely wrong about that. I must have said it like 3 times in replies, but I mean, when it started to get really close to him signing with Miami, I had to create like this whole all these screenshots of all of that all at once. I knew everyone was going to come after me with them. But yeah, that was one of them for sure. And it was recent, very recent. I'll post a lot. I don't really post like my predictions per se, because I mean, I'm not any different than you guys or anyone else. I'm just a regular guy who talks about sports. I'm not like an expert. And I don't know how many people actually care about what I have to say. So I'm not going to go into that on my feed, but I do like reply to people with stuff, with predictions and things like that. And then people find those so easily too with me. If I don't put a period in the right spot, people are trying to gotcha me.
You just need your own database, your own website with a database that like you can type in a media personnel and just find all their terrible takes just so you can throw them back.
You need somebody listening to those radio shows like every show.
Yeah.
And all across the country. And that would be something that it would be a fun thing to put together.
So do you have any good Bronco cold takes?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Broncos, what you talk about Paxton Lynch, there was, it fluctuates with Elway.
Yeah.
Because after they won the Super Bowl, like 2015 season, right? Yeah, Elway, how great he is. Now, I don't think it's as much anymore. Like he got Peyton Manning, that was like what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's whatever. So it's like, so it kind of fluctuates back and forth. But I mean, at that time with Peyton Manning, I think a lot of people thought he was going to go to Tennessee. I wasn't going to go to Denver. There's great Von Miller. There's a few things with him. He was picked second, right? Yeah.
Yes.
He's not on the second call, right?
Nope. He's on the Bills now.
He's on the Bills now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a very, with the NFL, it's very, with anything, it's very like recency bias, live in the moment type of thing. When Trevor Seaman was the quarterback, he started off, he won maybe 2 or 3 games. There was a lot of big, he's a real quarterback, this guy. He's a franchise quarterback.
He's still out there somewhere, okay? He's still doing things.
Wow, what a signing. He's been doing great.
There was I was gonna say there was one point where I think he had beaten the Dallas Cowboys, beaten them badly, and there were people that were saying hey, let's sign him to a contract extension and and stuff like that.
He beat the Cowboys at the beginning of the season. It was 2017, maybe 2018. Yeah. They were like 2-0 or 3-0. That's the type of thing. You live in the moment. And Sam Darnold had all that stuff too.
Yeah. Trevor might be my coldest take of all time. I live in New England now, and I'm standing in the middle of my office amongst Patriot fans predicting that he was going to win the NFL MVP that year. So, yeah.
No,
so there you go.
Yeah. I mean, like, no one knew him when he became a starting quarterback. I think that was the year where they signed Mark Sanchez. And was that year? And then he didn't even end up making the team. They were going to sign Kaepernick. It was before he kneeled.
Yep.
I feel like all takes.
They were considering signing him. It was before in that preseason he did the whole kneel thing, and that kind of changed his trajectory. But I remember that.
I feel like all takes during that time should be void because we didn't. It was just all up in the air. You didn't know. Could have. Just erased that whole history.
Osweiler had played a couple games because Manning's arm wasn't as good anymore. It was obvious. They won the Super Bowl, and Osweiler. They shouldn't let Osweiler go. Was one of them.
You haven't even mentioned the trigger word yet. Drew Locke. Drew Locke hype. Drew Locke.
Drew Locke. Yeah. He was
all the hype.
He was kind of like an it guy.
Yeah.
At one point, maybe the end of his rookie year. I remember Drew Locke completely because I'm a UF fan. He played 8 times. And he won maybe once or twice against us. One game in 2016, he was awful. And I always thought he was awful after that, but he was actually pretty good. But in 2016 against UF, I mean, look that game up. He must have. I think he threw 3 pick sixes. But he was like an it guy for a little bit. Near the end, he had that rap video where they dubbed the rap singing, and he had just won, so he was like, cool. Yeah. And going into the next season, he was supposed to be really good. And
very polarizing.
It's either that keyword or trigger word, or it's Tim Tebow. That's the other trigger word.
Yeah, well, we love Tebow at UF, but I never thought he was going to be. I never thought it. I don't know how he got. I don't know how he got McDaniels to pick him in the first round.
How many hot takes have you collected, or takes in general have you collected so far about the future of Tua?
So I don't really collect them that much, but Tua is a really, really hot topic for takes.
Yeah.
but similar to him and Daniel Jones.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
Giants, that's fine. But Josh Allen was like that.
Josh
for a
Allen.
while. He started out, he was like that. I mean, there was a lot of different. Like his first season too. He could play great, and then he could also play crappy, where he threw the ball over the guy's head, miles over his head. So you didn't really know what to get with him. So he broke out. I think it was the COVID year he broke out.
So, Fred, outside of our show, what on your book tour, what shows or appearances are you most excited about?
Well, I'm going on NFL Network tomorrow. I've been on that show before. It's a morning show. A Good Morning
Football.
When I first started the feed, like in 2017 or 2016, I actually went on the show, but I got to go in studio. I think it's a different format now a little bit, but I'm going on Zoom. So that's a good one. I did an interview with Dan Patrick recently, but it hasn't aired yet. So that was a good one. A lot of them, I get a lot of people asking me to do their show, so it's good. I mean, I can't complain about it. From everywhere, from all across the country. I mean, I have like 6 of them planned tomorrow, where it's just like a radio interview for like 10 minutes.
See, names all these big shows he's going on, and I go and mess up the time. See, go figure.
I didn't have anything going on at this time, so it wasn't really a big deal. And I've had 2 people already. I must have had like 20 interviews so far within like the last 2 days or 3 days, and I've had 2 just completely forget. So I mean,
I'm sitting here like, what happened? Like, where is he at? And I look at the tweet and I'm like, oh man.
I can tell you significantly worse when I'm waiting. So it would have been way worse if you told me to go on at 7 and it was actually at 8.
Yeah.
Because I hate just sitting here waiting for you guys to call.
Yeah, fair enough.
Me not doing anything me not just sitting around and then you say, oh, it's starting now. That's different. It's much better than the other way around.
I feel like you're just making me feel better. That's all that is.
It was the right time. It was the right time. So.
Why do I think that Kyle Brandt and Peter Schrager love your feed? Like, I would think that those two
they
guys
do. Well, yeah, I mean, they do. They do like the feed. They've been around for a long time in terms of pumping up the feed. Kyle Brandt is like that guy has more energy than like a performer on Broadway. I mean, like that guy is just a ball full of energy. Even when he's like DMing about a take or something, he's trying to get me to post it. It's like he has energy with that. So
he kind of stole a page out of your book a little bit. Devin McCourty is now back on is on the show. So now he split his Twitter. He had a shared Twitter account with his brother. So they went back to his tweets.
Great.
Pre-brother shared account, and they were pulling them up the other day.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, it's Jason McCourty. He was on the Dolphins last year. Yeah. He's one of the new guys. When I went on the show, it was two different people.
All right.
So there's two new hosts now. So,
well, Fred, we definitely want to thank you for joining us on the show. Again, my apologies for the wrong time. I know you're a busy guy. You've got some things to do. We do have all of your description or all of your tags and your social media down in the description below. It's like Twitter, it's at Old Takes Exposed, Instagram at Freezing Cold Takes. We also have the link for anybody to go that wants to buy your book, which you should. It's a fantastic book. Glenn has it there. Mine's coming at some point, which I think will be fantastic. If you want to just hang around for a second, and then we'll kind of chat with you after. I'm going to read the outro here, and then we'll be right back with you. All right?
All right.
All right. So that's going to just about do it for today's show. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, follow, turn on notifications so that you know when we post and when we go live. Also, make sure you check out our other podcast, the Wild Wild West AFC West podcast on Wednesdays, 7:30, 6:35, 34:30. The MHRT Rewind, where we replay a previous episode that airs on Thursdays at 8, 7, 6, 5, and Broncos Breakdown with Bronco Bill on Fridays at a new time of 8, 7, 6, 5. And just a reminder that starting next week, the 5280 podcast will also be at 8, 7, 6, 5. So an hour difference from what we have been doing. We want to thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys later, and go Broncos.